My name is Victoria Chi. I am the wildlife officer for the Forest Department. And today I will be presenting on the Wildlife Protection Act, Chapter 220 of the Laws of Belize. The Wildlife Protection Act covers um, covers and regulates and monitor the use of wildlife resources. It establishes restriction on hunting. It gives the open and closed season for some species. It lists the species that are not allowed to be hunted, and it lists those that can be hunted. It also allows for the declaration of no hunting areas. It establishes powers of officers and establishes offense and penalties. First, we start off with some definitions, and the first definition that is very important is to hunt. Normally, when we say to hunt, we normally think that to hunt is just having killed the animal, but in the law, it defines hunting as to kill, take, or molest by any method and includes attempting to take, kill, or molest by any method any species of wildlife. So that is what we consider hunting. So the minute you enter the place, the home of these wildlife, and you tamper with them or you start to molest them by any method, that is considered hunting. So that is one of the most important words that one must remember when it is that they're enforcing the Wildlife Protection Act. The second definition is wildlife. So wildlife within the law is classified as all undomesticated mammals, birds, and reptiles, and all parts, eggs, and nests of any of these wildlife forms. So again, all undomesticated mammals. We're not talking about cows, we're not talking about pigs, we're not talking about chickens. We're saying undomesticated mammals, birds, and reptiles, and also their parts, eggs, and nests. Just so that you can remember, I keep repeating these words so that it can sink in what wildlife really means. The Wildlife Protection Act also provides a schedule of all the animals, the wild animals that are protected within the law. For us, it is very important to highlight, for example, the saltwater crocodiles and the freshwater crocodiles, which are the morlets, the 5 species of cats that we have. It also says that all birds are protected with the exception of the chichalaka, the crested guan, the great curassow, the black-throated bobby white, the blue-winged teal. These are animals that can be hunted within the law, or birds that can be hunted within the law. It also provides a list of animals that can be hunted. They can be hunted once you have a valid hunter's permit, and once they are within season, because you can have a hunting permit and you can still be charged if you hunt animals that are off season. For example, we have the gibbnut, iguanas, armadillos, the game birds, the peccary, and the deers. These animals can be hunted once you have a valid hunter's permit, 2, once the season is open. Where can you hunt? It is very important that you know where you can hunt, because again, you can have a valid permit. It could be open season for the animal, but once you go and hunt in an area that you should not be hunting, you can also be charged for that. For example, you cannot hunt in all protected areas. Protected areas are no zone for hunting. Also, you can hunt in national land. You can hunt in private property once you've obtained written permission from that private landowner. I'm not telling you you can go and hunt in anybody's land. You must get a valid authorization in order for you to go and hunt in any private land. And again, just to stress a little bit more, no hunting is allowed in any of the protected areas. So again, if you have a valid permit and it's open season, you can go hunting in national land. Also, what is important to note is that when you get a hunting permit, it is limited by the geographical region in where you live. For example, if you live in the village of Kamalote, you will, or you live in Kamalote, which is within the Coyote district, you will only be able to hunt in Kamalote wherever they have national land, and in within the confines of the Coyote district. You cannot go to Orinjuak and hunt with that hunter's permit because it limits you to a geographical district, if you want to call it. So you can go hunting once you have a valid permit, once you're not in a protected area, once you're within your geographic region, and once the season for that specific animal is open. Um, let me see. Also, you are not able to hunt any young or females with young. So again, you can have a valid permit. You can have, it could be the season, you could be in national land, you could be within your geographic region. But again, if you go and hunt a young or a female with young, then you're still committing an offense and you can be charged for that. So these are things that you must consider when you go hunting. It's not just to go hunting because you have a hunter's permit. You need to take all of these considerations when you go hunting. And when you get a hunting permit, all of these stipulations and conditions are within that permit. So it cannot be that you don't know or you forgot. There are these stipulations and conditions are within the hunting permit. Also, methods of hunting that are not allowed. You cannot go hunting with the use of dogs. You cannot go hunting with the use of artificial lights. You cannot use fire to go hunting. You cannot use traps or snares or poison when you go hunting. So all of these methods are not allowed when you go hunting. And if you use any of these methods, you're also again committing an offense, and you can be charged for those. So again, the methods of hunting. Also, what is very important and that people should know and should be aware, but for us, this would be the last resort or as an alternative, to advise farmers when they have problems with any wildlife, when they have wildlife conflict. And that is the defense of person or property. And the law states that a person can take measures necessary to defend himself, other persons, his or her crops, or domestic animals from any wildlife. Um, you can you can take the necessary measures, but when you do so, you must also note that any wildlife killed or captured in your property belongs to the government. Any person who takes such measures needs to report it to the nearest game warden or the nearest office, and pay the necessary royalty or fees. If it comes to game species that you've killed, then you would be charged a royalty based on that. And again, this is very important to highlight. If you have conflict with a jaguar, let's say, you have the right to shoot the jaguar and defend yourself and your animal. But if the animal is not posing a threat to you or your animals, then you have no right to shoot it. In many instances, we have people who trap the jaguar, who set up traps and trap the jaguar. Once the jaguar is within the trap, you are not allowed to shoot it. You're not allowed to kill it and remove any parts of it. You are not allowed to do that. When you do that, you must call the forest department and report it to us so that we can dispose of the carcass. And again, Once you capture that animal, then you have no right to shoot it. It no longer poses any threat to you. So you can be charged if at the end of the day you decide to shoot the animal that is already in a trap. So that is what we must remember, that you can take certain measures, but in taking those measures, there are also other procedures that you must follow so that you are not charged for hunting of this animal. Also, like I had mentioned before, wildlife parts are illegal to keep. You cannot have the feathers, you cannot have skins, you cannot have the skulls, you cannot have the canines, the tooth, you can't have their eggs. Everything or all parts that come from a wildlife are illegal to keep. If you have those parts, you can be charged with unlawful possession of wildlife. You can also be charged with unlawful possession of forest produce, because in the definition of forest produce, um, parts and wildlife parts are considered forest produce. So you can be charged for that. And so whenever people are selling these, you are advised to call the forest department and inform them, inform us about it. And again, and if you just come across stumbling by these parts, then it's advisable that you report it or you deliver it to the forest department as opposed to keeping it, because if you're caught with it, then you can be charged for keeping these parts. I mentioned a lot about hunting license and a hunting permit. In order for you to obtain a hunting license or permit, it is very, very easy. You can get it in within what I can see a half hour. You fill out the application form that gives you basic information, your name, your address, and it asks what species of wildlife you're planning to hunt and so on, basic information that you fill out. You must present a copy of a valid gun license, a copy of an ID, and you pay a fee. The fee varies. If you're a resident, you pay $100 a year, or you can pay $10 a day. If you are a non-resident, then you pay $1,000 a year and 100 per day. What is also within the law is a dealer's permit. A dealer's permit is for those who are allowed to sell or trade these species of wildlife. So the only way you can be selling wildlife, not their parts, wildlife, for example, their meat and so on, is if you have obtained a dealer's license. And normally when a person applies for a dealer's license, again, there's an application form. And one of the conditions within that dealer's license is that your meat or product must be coming from someone who has a valid hunting license. And that's how we interlink both the hunting permit and the dealer's permit. And if you, like I mentioned a lot of what you can and cannot do. If you are caught, you are committing an offense, you can, there's two options that we have. You have the compounding of offense, and that has a maximum fine of $300. And compounding of offense is basically that we settle out of court. You get your pay slip, you go to the Treasury Department and you pay. This is not paid directly to the person from the Forest Department. It is not directly paid. Cash isn't handled between any officer within the Forest Department. This, you will get a pay slip and you go and pay at the closest Treasury office that you have nearest to you. And then you bring back the receipt and so on. So the compounding of offense, it has a maximum of $300. And this offense is based on the offense that you've committed. If it is a minor offense, then you would normally go with the compounding of offense. Or if you're taken to court the first times offenders, the fee, a maximum fee of fine of $500. If you are a second time offender, the fine increases to 1,000 or 6 months imprisonment, or it can be both. Um, but I know the fees seem too little, but I'll also mention throughout the presentation that wildlife is considered a forest produce. And given that it is considered a forest produce, the amended act, the amendment to the Forest Act, Chapter 213, then gives us the right to charge $10,000 to any other class of forest produce not specified in the second schedule. And in the second schedule, what is specified is basically several timber species. And because wildlife does not fall under that second schedule, um, you automatically can be charged a maximum of $10,000 when it comes to, for example, the unlawful possession of forest produce, which would mean that if you are caught with a tooth or a jaguar skin or any of those, you can be charged up to $10,000. And with that, I would like to say thank you